investigation actually began last June in this Newburgh mosque when one of the defendants, James Cromartie, told an FBI informant that he was upset that Muslims were being killed by U.S. troops in Afghanistan and Pakistan. He was willing to die a martyr's death to get revenge.
They all made the statement that they didn't, if Jews were killed in this attack, it wouldn't, that would be all right.
Caught on tape were the discussions last month of what synagogues to target and plans to attack the Air National Guard base in Newburgh with a Stinger missile. The informant, with his reported terror network connections, was asked to supply the weapons of mass destruction. He did, but they were really duds.
Now, this is a huge story, and it's got so many attachments to it that it's hard to explain. Just the other day, when there was a big argument in America about closing Gitmo, when the inexperienced social worker president that we now have wanted to release terrorists into America, even the FBI director, Robert Mueller, who was extremely moderate, by the way, was forced to come out and give testimony saying that if they were released into American prisons, these Gitmo detainees, so to speak, they could radicalize other prisoners in prison, okay? Because he understands what's going on in our prisons today. And yet, astonishingly, Dianne Feinstein, as though she's living in another universe, a parallel universe, in clip 18 talks about putting them in federal prisons in California. Listen to this, 18.
We have maximum security prisons in California. People do not escape from them. So it's a kind of fear bait to say to people, oh, they want to bring terrorists back to the neighborhoods. That is not the truth. We want terrorists in maximum security detention.
All right, Diane, you're way off on this. You're off on this, Dianne Feinstein. Even the FBI director knows that they're radicalizing others in prison. Take a look at New York. These were radicalized in prison. These guys weren't religious. They were petty criminals. They were just in jail. They were losers. They had no reason to live. And they went to some imam in a prison, and suddenly they wanted to kill everybody. Jews, Christians, airplanes. Now they had a reason to live. Suddenly all of their loser behavior was justified by a scapegoat, the Jew. And so Dianne Feinstein doesn't seem to understand this at all. She doesn't understand this, to say that they haven't escaped. They don't have to escape, but their ideas can escape into the heads of others, Dianne. No, you're wrong on this, Dianne Feinstein. You're as wrong can be. They belong out of America. George in Chicago, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hello, Dr. Savage. It's a pleasure to be on with you. I have a question. Since you're a big with alternative health and what have you. One, do you think there's any negative effects of fluoride being in the water?
Well, I'm not going to deal with any health questions here. I'm only dealing with politics. Do you have a political statement or not?
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that the FBI was infiltrated in this. They were infiltrated in the first WTC bombing. It always seems that there's an FBI bureaucrat involved with these terrorist organizations. Doesn't it seem that with you?
Well, what are you saying? What do you mean infiltrated? They weren't infiltrated. They infiltrated the terrorists. What do you mean it's interesting to you? What are they supposed to do? That's how they work. How do you think they get these guys before they blow up a building?
Michael, this is all another deflection. There's a lot of things going on in the world. The New World.
George, you're a very naive man. Here's the FBI doing their job, infiltrating a terrorist cell, stopping them before they blow something up, and now the FBI is wrong in your mind.
Well, I don't.
You're alleging that these 4 African American converts to Islam are innocent. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm sure that there's probably something that the media is not telling us. I'm sure that's true. I'm not saying you, Dr. Savage. You're very you keep it real, but
I think you're 100% wrong. What's there to tell you that you don't already know? You've got many such individuals in America who would like to get their hands on C4 and kill. I'm sure they'd all be invited to meet the Queen in Buckingham Palace by Jackie Smith. Washington, D.C. Matt, welcome to the program. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I wanted to pick up on your point about criminals being recruited to this, connected to the Nazis. The early days of the Nazis, the brown shirts, who were the first force of Nazis, were a bunch of street hoodlums and criminals who were convinced to get along. That's going to be the recruiting base for these radical Islamists, and I think you made a very excellent point in connecting it.
That is right. That's why the FBI director, a moderate man, Robert Mueller, the other day when we were talking about bringing the prisoners from Gitmo back to American prison, said, no, they don't belong here because they will radicalize other prisoners. Everybody understands that except liberals like Dianne Feinstein, apparently.
I think it's crazy. I did read an article maybe 3 weeks ago about a vacant prison in Montana where the people in the town thought it would be great to get it occupied.
Yeah, I saw that on TV today. They need the money, apparently. But it looks to me, I don't even know why that prison was built in Montana to begin with. I have no idea why it was built if it's empty. Where they get the money from? And why was it given to them if it's an empty prison? It sounds like a bridge to nowhere. This is a prison to nowhere. But it doesn't make sense to me to put foreign prisoners in there at all. They belong in Guantanamo where they cannot swim even. They cannot even swim to America and cause mayhem. You know, none of the home countries will take them. You know that, Matt.
I wouldn't.
Not even the home countries will take these people, and yet Dianne Feinstein wants them in California. Now, what sense does that make to anybody?
This is the social equivalent of a disease that threatens society. We can't, because of our civilization won't allow us to exterminate the disease. The minimum, we need to quarantine it.
Correct. There you go. Well put. I like that. Very, very good. You can't use... That's very interesting. Quarantine. That's the problem. That's the solution to this disease. Thank God we have Robert Mueller in the FBI. That's all I can say. Just thank God Obama hasn't replaced him with another college professor. God forbid he put a college teacher in there, another one, another ACLU college teacher into the head of the FBI. God help us all. God help us all. If Obama put a Janet Napolitano into the FBI. God help us all. New York City, WOR. Chris, go ahead, please.
Dr. Savage, thank you for taking my call. I think the really big story is the reason that the ACLU and these other leftists are supporting the radical Muslims is they believe in their own twisted imagination that they're going to be able to use them to create a revolutionary atmosphere. I know Jimmy from Brooklyn has talked about this constantly. And I went and I spent many, many hours researching this stuff, and sure enough, it's true. If you read these leftist publications, they were in a big blue funk, after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. They didn't know what they were going to do. And then along comes radical Islam. Now, they believe in their own imagination that they are going to use them for their own ends. What they don't understand is that they're not going to be able to neuter these people, that they've unleashed a Frankenstein monster which is going to devour them.
I understand that completely, but I've told you before, the radical leftists, the progressives, are generally psychotic. Many of them are on medication. They practice death styles, not lifestyles. They are dancing with the devil. Many of them are, in fact, demonic. Many of them practice witchcraft. Many of them want themselves to die, and they want to pull the whole society down with them. You cannot reason with insane people. Do you understand that, Chris?
Listen, it's not just here. I've been in Europe, and I've actually seen some of these things happen. I've been to leftist events where there are satanic symbols. I'm not making this stuff up. I've seen these things. You get all sorts of people come out, but this is what there's an occult aspect to this. That if
just as Hitler was an occult worshiper, as were all of his top henchmen, we now have a rising tide of the occult in the world, as exemplified by the so-called progressive movement. They have attacked the Catholic Church for well over 10 years. They have attacked every religious institution for 10 years. They try to tear down the Mormon Church in the last year. They're going after Michael Savage tooth and claw. Anyone who stands for truth, anyone who stands for God is their enemy. Do you understand that?
It's not 20 years. It's 200 years that they've been fighting this battle. 200 years. If you look back...
Well, but it was like a dormant disease that had laid dormant in the earth. And the disease has now metastasized to a level where it threatens to sweep the world and kill us all.